Hello and welcome to this edition of Big Scott 35 Let's Talk with MikeO.
What's up?
Glad to have you on. Really happy you would do this with me. You said before that you would do it, and I held you to it.
Well, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, and I mean, I have to say, you've been a great help to me on my channel, and because of your live sales, believe it or not, I have a lot of those people actually. We talk a lot and watch my channel through those live sales, so I appreciate that.
That's good. It's become a cool little small community of people gathering there and hanging out and chatting for a few hours, and that's one of the main reasons I do them. Obviously, it's a good way to move some extra stuff, but not really breaking a whole lot nowadays, as you can imagine. With the even though people are talking about the market cooling down a little bit, that hasn't affected wax prices too much.
Right. Well, have you looked at them here lately at
I
all?
have I haven't looked at any of the new stuff too much. I mean, baseball in general is a lot better than football and basketball,
Right.
but still retail stuff like that. It's been a little tough in the last year, but it's one of those things. I feel like I get so many messages because there's a lot of work to do, a lot of coordination and stuff. But then I'll get
Right.
so many messages. I'm like, all right, well, I got some free time this night, so what the heck, let's do one. Plus, it's a cool chance to get together with my dad, and he
Right.
likes to help me. I forget how that even started because a few years ago I tried the live sales once in a while, and I did them with Ed. And
Yep.
then at some point, like I forget why, but I asked him if he wanted to help me with one. He was like, and then we did it, and then we did it again, and then next thing you know, he was asking me as well, to do
Pa-
them too. So it's a
Papa
cool
O
thing.
is kind of like a cult favorite now within the group there.
Yeah, I've been hoping to do some sort of Phillies related video with him, but we'll see if he's feeling up to it one of these days. Hopefully, we'll get one out.
Well, you did a break video with him probably a year or two ago.
Yeah, I think that was around. I can't remember if it was around Christmas or New Year's a couple years ago. I
Right.
know I did some, and he made some quick guest appearances in it, and I think a few years before that too. A
Right.
few clips here and there.
Right. And that, I mean, we talked about it before. I mean, that's kind of how, I mean, like my dad, he's the one that was your backbone and got you to the card collecting. That's the way it sounds.
Oh yeah. Well,
And having a big
so
lot of brothers.
so yeah, I'm one of six kids, so it's one of those things like we didn't really ask for a lot because we knew there were a lot of us to go around, so we weren't the type of kids that every time you go into a store, we want this. It was like very selective. So I remember one birthday, um, I got a few packs of 89 tops from, just a friend who was over at one of our small parties. And I remember we were opening them, and he's like going through telling me about some of the players. And I guess this is right around when Pete Rose got in trouble too for the gambling. Cause I remember being like, oh, Pete Rose, he's a bum. He was betting on baseball, this and that. So, I remember like it was just such a cool moment, just being like, "Hey, do you think we could get some more of these?" And that's kind of what kicked
Oh,
off, you know, however many years later, 30 years later, whatever it is,
right.
going crazy with cards. But who knew back then you would end up taking cards and mailing them off to be, swiped for months on end just to get them, stuck in big plastic slabs. So
Right. And making up any excuse to do it. In my mind, I do that to myself. So,
yeah,
uh,
and you never thought you'd get to a point where you have other friends or family members who would be like, "Yeah, I saw something on the news about like Target not selling sports cards and Pokemon cards anymore because people are brawling in the parking lots." And I'm like, "Yeah,
yeah,
not every moment as a collector is a proud moment."
yeah. When that story kind of went mainstream, I was getting, for everybody that was related to me was friends, and everybody was like, "Really? That's what's going on." Uh, but do, are you on the? Are you happy that ball cards or cards in general are gone mainstream as a hobbyist, not as a
I
seller,
mean,
as a pure hobbyist?
I mean, there's good parts and bad parts. Of course, is having a collection, whether you plan on selling it or not. Like your PC might be your PC for life, but it's for your life, which unfortunately we all know it will not go on for forever here on
Right.
Earth at the very least. So
Right.
you don't want to have like a worthless collection. So it's nice to see things grow in price, and it's nice to like pick up cards and see them escalate in price too. Like that's not maybe the main driving force, but it's kind of be cool to be like, man, like it makes you feel good to get a deal. Like, oh wow, I bought that card for $40. Like that's crazy. It's $1,000, but just because it's $1,000 doesn't mean you feel compelled to have to go sell it or anything. But I mean, at least it's something. If you were to need that, it's nice to know that. But it's nice to see the attention. It's nice to see it spoken about, talked about, things like that. But there's certainly plenty of downsides with prices rising that makes it harder for you to purchase a card that you could have gotten exponentially cheaper, you know, weeks, months, years earlier. And obviously it kind of sucks to not be able to just be like, oh, Series 2 came out. Let me head over to Walmart or Target and grab a box. It's like Target's not an option right now. Walmart, at least the one Walmart I've stopped at recently, I haven't seen anything new at all. I don't know if they're getting stuff in or not. And even though I know that's a product I'll be able to acquire at some point, I'm not going to run out to a hobby shop. And even though the prices aren't crazy, I'm still not going to go out and race out to get that at those prices. And eventually, I'm sure it'll show up on Target's website, but it has not yet. So you kind of have to end up waiting a few weeks in some cases.
And then you text me to let me know. That'd be nice.
Oh, if it pops up on Target's website, I certainly will do so.
And I text other people, beat the bots. Hashtag beat the bots.
I'm thinking it might drop this week on Thursday, maybe. It was Fridays for a few weeks in a row. And then I think they did, I can't remember what week after week, but I know one week I think they dropped their stuff on a Tuesday and one on a Wednesday or something. So they
Keep
haven't
you
done
guessing.
Thursday yet, so maybe it'll be tomorrow. Who knows? We'll see. And
Yeah,
I just want the basic. Like if they did Stadium Club and Tops, I'd be happy. If I got some kind of football product, cool, but that's not my main driving force. So
right.
we'll see if we get that chance and when we do.
Right. Yeah, I am happy that I'm just a baseball guy. I do hockey, but it's just caps. I kind of stick with the caps. But
And the sad part about Series 2, like I want to open some just to open it. I love opening flagship. Like I understand you want a lot of products like Topps Finest, obviously they're 100 card sets. And that's what I actually like about flagship. Like I like getting the mediocre players that most people could care less about, most people
right,
have never heard of. But there's just something fun about opening a box and being like, cool, I got 350 different players, like some guys who, be in and out of the league in 2 years, but that's nice. And sure, I'd like to get a Brian Hayes rookie card out of that product because I think he's going to be a really good player. It'd be a neat card to have, and whatever, it's a cheap card. My driving force is to get that Series 2 Philly set so I can add it into my ultimate team set, even though, it's not exactly the greatest checklist. And there's some guys on there that will be in and out of baseball in a couple years, but I look forward to breaking some of that at some point.
yeah, you got me started on my tops ultimate Mets. I thank you and also hate you for that.
I mean, at least you're not a Yankees fan because then it'd be impossible. That
Right.
that would be
But
pricey.
yeah, but I luckily the Mets are what 61, I believe, is the first year. So it's not like where you almost feel like you have to go way back. I don't know how far back. I can't remember. You went all the way back
I
to the
did.
first year,
Well, yeah, I did 51 tops, which isn't a very big set. And
right?
quite honestly, it's not that expensive. 52 is where it got pricey because there's some high number short prints that like you're like, cool, this guy was, I mean, they hung around a little longer back then, but
Right.
like, cool,
Well,
this
that's
guy was a backup catcher for like a half dozen years, and it's like a $300 card, but
that's the problem I'm having is the high numbered cards, even in the 60s, early 70s. But and then you got the Nolan Ryan, Tom Seaver rookies, so in there. So I have all the 80s guys, the 90s, but still, well, not a lot of the 90s. I got to take that back. But yeah, you got me going in that. So thank you for that.
It's super fun though. You can
It
eventually
is.
having a binder like earlier this season. I just went and grabbed a random binder. It's like I go through different modes. I'm like, oh, let me check out the vintage. They're so cool. And then I'll look at like the more modern guys. I'll look at like 5 years ago. I'm like, damn, I barely remember like some of these guys who spent a year or two there.
What
Like,
was the
and then
online series they had like 2 years ago that had like every
oh,
player?
Tops Total.
Oh
They
yeah,
brought back Tops Total because they did like full wax releases of that back in I guess it
right,
was like the early 2000s, late 90s, something like that. That I did the first year they brought that back. I did. I picked up the whole Philly set, and then this. I think they did it the next year. I don't think I ever completed that set. I just kind of picked up some of them, but always be able to eventually get it. But that's a funny product too because there's so many guys who they just get a card, but that's cool. Like years later,
right, right.
and
Yeah,
that's what I like about Tops now too. You get some of those players. Hey, they have a cool moment, and hey, at least you get a card.
well, that was one of the things that got me onto your channel was I was getting that stuff going to tops.com, and you were like one of the few channels that was talking about it and getting it actually. I wouldn't say promoting it, but hey, they have this and talking about it. So
I think it's super awesome for like as a team collector. I
right,
pick up, I just do the whole Philly set. I actually put them in the binder towards the back end um, of the Ultimate Tops team set because I think it's a retrospective of the season. It shows some of those highlight moments. But then if you get like, I went to where the heck was I? I think I was in Colorado with my brother. I think it was when I can't remember now offhand. Who the heck was it? Was it Kenta Maeda? It might have been when he was started in the big leagues, and he had a big game. And I was with my brother on a baseball trip. We were in Colorado, so I was like, "Oh, well, I'm buying that Tops Now card and just keeping that one because we were
right,
at that game." And then we were at a Phillies game. Harper had a home run, and they made one. I think it was my brother's like bachelor party, and so I was like, "Oh, I'll get one this time." I think I sent him one too. Unfortunately, I was also at a Phillies game a few years ago, and the Diamondbacks I think they hit like 8 home runs. Whatever they did, it was like their team record, and the Phillies hit a pile too. They hit like 6, but they hit a bunch of solo homers, and Arizona did it with 2, 3 guys on base, so they got smoked. But I was like, yeah, I'll pick up this card. It might not be the best of memories, but at the same time, I was there, saw a little bit of history, so pick it up.
right.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I have yet to do that, and I've been to not all over the country, but I went when I lived in Virginia. I went to quite a few Nationals games with my father and our family. That's my family team. So have yet to have that fun fact happen, but I still pick like um, I pick up Kellenic, and that's a good way to get like his first rookie card. I don't want to get Victor to watch this and mad at me. His rookie year card, not his rookie card, even though I have RC on it. But that's a good way to pick up a first card of that and a living set. To me, are pretty good ways to get that.
Yeah, living set's awesome. I love that set. I just
Beautiful.
I'm so behind. I need to pick up some more. Obviously, it's even though it's only a couple per week, it can become a lot to collect. But I would like to add more of the Hall of Famers that I missed out on, or it doesn't even have to be Hall of Famers, just kind of like fan favorite guys. So,
Right.
but it's one of those things I do check every week when it comes out. I'm like, oh, let me see who they made, and sometimes it'll be like a relief pitcher and someone else. I'm like, yeah.
What are you thinking about this project 70 or 20? Whatever they're calling a project this week. The
I
art
mean,
project.
Project 2020 was outrageously ridiculous when it was at its height last year. I remember telling people, I'm like, there's no people are acting like these are $1 million investments. It makes no sense. I thought it was cool for a while last year because we didn't have baseball. That was like the main thing coming out. But I just felt like the 20 cards, 20 designs just became a little repetitive at a certain point. There's certainly some artists I like better than others. I like the plain generic cards a little more than others. Like the stuff that's over the top, I'm like, that doesn't, I get it's a reimagination, but I'm like, that just doesn't look like a baseball card that would be released. So it just doesn't interest me a ton. Um, but I mean, a lot of them were really cool. But Project 70, I actually like more. Again, I think it's over the top and probably a little too big of a overall list. And I think they could be a little more diverse on some of the players or teams they choose. But I do like that option of checking every day and being like, hey, they make a Philly or they make something super awesome. I mean, I've been picking up doing the Phillies run when they release them, but outside of that, here and there, I'll pick some up. I picked up Josh Gibson, one of the recent ones. I was just like, dude, that's an awesome guard. And it's not like there's Josh Gibson stuff coming out every
Right.
5 minutes. So that interests me. But some of them I look at and I'm like, really? Those are the dude who does, I don't remember what the artist with the like crazy like teeth and stuff.
The
I don't get it.
monster.
I know he's super popular, but I look at him like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I got the trout one, and only reason is because I get the trouts. I
Yeah.
got all the trouts in the 2020. I've been picking them up in the 70. To me, it's like trout is going to be like the mantle cards. There's no such thing as a bad trout. So
Yeah.
I just
But
picked them
I mean,
up.
it's fun to follow, and I like that it's not the same cards. I do every now and then. I'm just like, I mean, it's cool to see different players and teams represented. But at a certain point, I'm like, why do we have like 4 Tommy Lasorda? Like he's
Yeah,
awesome, and you should definitely get a card or two. But I'm like, how are we up to 4? I don't even know how far we're through. I don't even think they're halfway, are
and
they?
there's teams that haven't even been represented yet.
Yeah. So we'll see how things
Well, that's
continue
what you
to
get when you
develop
pay
there.
the artist per card sold and not just giving them a straight up contract. So
Yeah, and they let them pick whatever they want. Like they've done 2 Dick Allens and both as a White Sox. I'm like, how have we not gotten a Phillies version yet?
right. Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
know he bounced around a little bit, but I feel like he's best known for his Phillies days. So
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
holding out hope for one.
What's that?
I'm holding out that they'll do maybe a
Well,
Dick Allen as a Philly. We'll see.
and I'm trying to, and they've done like quite a few Deion Sanders and stuff like where you're scratching your head, like, okay, I guess so. I don't know.
There's a lot, and I get it. Art is, subjective and all that, but there's some like the recent ones. There's that one. I don't, that just like a Juan Soto with a teddy bear. I was like, what is this? Like, I don't get it. Maybe I'm
Right.
missing something. I'm assuming I am, but
It's probably something to do with the artist. Who knows?
yeah.
But I was just wondering because I know you do a lot of tops.com and it's just for a team collector or player collector. I think a lot of people miss out on that.
Yeah. I mean, people will complain too. Like, oh, I like the options. I of course love the pack pulled stuff, the traditional stuff. That's
Right.
why I like Topps flagship. Like, I like Chrome a lot too, and I love the colors, and that stuff looks awesome. But like, there's something cool about the flagship. I would never want that to go away. And everything has its own different reason to collect, and that's what we need. We don't want everything to look the same. That's one of my biggest issues over the years with like Panini. Like, I understand like the football and basketball wise, like Prism has become super popular in the hobby, and I look at it and I'm like, it virtually looks the same year in and year out. Like, I don't get it. I'm not saying I don't like it, but I don't love it. I like mixing up the new players and new products and new ideas for products, of course, but I like the old stuff too. I like the 206 cards with a modern day rookie on it, stuff like that.
I was one that didn't like them because they were hard to store, but you turned me on to the regular size plastic with the inside part being smaller for it. I didn't even know they had those until you showed them a while back.
There's actually so many, like, there's actually a lot more options to store your tobacco minis than your regular cards, because you can do the tobacco sized top loader and soft sleeve, or you can do the tobacco insert soft sleeve that goes in a regular top loader, or the magnetic. The magnetics look cool too. So
right. My problem with the actual smaller top loader was the same issue I had with the card. It's too small. It's hard to store. But when you put it in a regular top loader, it makes it and also fit into a page a lot better. that
And
way.
the good part is, in one of the other problems with the hobby today, is the supply chain. And
Mhm.
generally speaking, people are going crazy for all the standard size holders. And usually you can just go on and go, oh, I need some of the tobacco sized inserts. Hey, look, there's plenty in stock because
That's
people aren't dealing with the mini stuff because they're not making mini basketball cards right now.
right. Yeah, they do that, we're in trouble. Yeah, to get back to the wax, I did see, like, I went on last week just to laugh, but the price for like a hobby box is like 105. So
For what, Series 2?
series two, and I
Yeah, I
think
know
it's
Series
because
2 is dropping a little bit. I heard it was pretty
somebody went
affordable for some of the dealer net stuff. Sometimes I message some people I know just to get an idea what stuff is, what the dealers are paying or trying to sell stuff for. So,
well, I don't know if you know who Big Shep is, about the cards, and he's a big Twitter guy. He said he went to a store and got it for like $90. So
yeah, I
you know,
could see
I'm
that
fine
being
with
I
that.
could see that being somewhat affordable at the National. There's got to
Right.
be some products cuz guys are going to have to move stuff.
Yeah. Talking about the National, they make cards for buying boxes for Panini and Tops, right?
Yep,
We talked about this.
I have a history of buying
Right.
wax for the sole purpose of getting those packs.
Me too. But I'm going to buy the wax anyway because I usually wait to get my finest when I go to the show. And usually Tops Museum, I believe, comes out about the time of the show. So I usually get those at the show, um, and for that purpose. But, I think we talked about it when I was on your channel. What did they do with last year's cards that they made for the National? And how are they going to do that this year when they're not going to be able to make these sellers sell them at the SRP, which they've done in the past for them to do the cards. They had to sell them at the SRP. So I'm interested to see what's going to if they're even doing it, this
I
year.
also want to know, even if they do it, will it be worth it? Because, like, how long will the packs last?
Right.
Or will they just mass produce them? And how long will we have to wait in line to, like, do I want to spend an hour in line to get that pack after spending, 80 or $100 on a box? I don't know about
But
that. I mean, we'll have to see.
the last National I went to, it wrapped twice around their green rug around the thing. But it went pretty quickly.
Yeah, I just remember, like, back at Cleveland, I think you
Oh,
obviously there would be a big line at first, but then at a certain point, I remember you'd be able to just go buy a box and just run over and literally, like, just run right up there and get them. Make
yeah.
sure you get it before they ran out. But God, the last show, I guess the last one was Chicago. It's so weird that there wasn't one last year.
Yeah.
And so it was what, AC, Chicago. Then I guess it was Cleveland, Chicago. I think those are the last four. Um, it's just like, I think the last one in Chicago, I remember just buying stuff and getting the packs. And I brought a pile of packs home. I remember I gave a bunch to my dad to open. And then trying to think, I remember, I think I even bought some wax at the, they slice it open when you get the pack.
Yeah.
Or maybe they even took the cellophane. I forget because I think they had a label on it. And I remember just bringing those boxes home and, like, opening them months later and, like, whatever it was. Some of the cheap stuff I bought probably ended up, like, quadrupling in price because guys would try and unload certain things.
Right. Well, my first few years, I know, because I just getting started into the YouTube. I think this is going on my third year. I really didn't know people, and I went by myself. So that was my thing at night, was opening up boxes just to have something to do. But
Well, at least this year, you'll be too preoccupied to have to worry about opening stuff.
yeah,
You open a box and you, like, split it with someone. Even if it's your box, you just let someone else open some
right.
packs and you just BS and extend the process.
Well, I went to the one YouTube gathering at the last Chicago, and that was fun. Just hanging out, just rubbing elbows with everybody. And I think this year, I've been 2 years now. I've been more active and everything, and hopefully, I'm really looking forward to meeting and talking with people. So
That to me is the best part. I don't know if you saw the video Sports Card Investigator put up. I don't know if you even
yeah,
know his channel. I had seen parts of it. I don't know if I watched the whole thing, but then I know Baseball Collector did like a reaction
That's
video,
what
and
I
I guess
watched.
other people were talking about it. And like, I was watching that video, and like, here's what I would say to people who are like on the fence. He's not wrong in some aspects, but if you're a small time flipper or if you're a collector who just buys like dollar box stuff, does it make sense to spend all that money to go there? Probably not. If you're someone with, you know, a crazy amount of money, like, and you're looking for like 5, 10,000, 20,000 out cards, of course that's your best chance to see them all and examine them in hand and stuff like that. But if you're just like, if you love the hobby and you, I know Pepino Man, I saw something, I don't know if he said it in a video or if it was part of a group chat we were doing, but he was like, I go there as if I'm going like to a museum just to walk around and look at stuff, like just to look at, you know, mantle rookies and the 52 top sets. And you'll see like just complete set, like just to look at that stuff, that is worth it because it will be an unbelievable experience. And then if you're involved in the community, just to hang out for a few days, like it's priceless. Yeah,
Right.
yes, it's going to be pricey to gather a flight unless you were smart enough to take a chance months ago, and then maybe you got a flight for $40. But hotel rooms, but again, as you network, you can start to like, I'm splitting my room with two other guys that, you know, that was booked a while ago. So it's
Right.
one of the things that you can kind of do over time too. But like it's hard to describe. It's just an experience, and then there's so many people that you interact with and talk with, whether it's via chats or just watching each other's videos. Like the feeling you get there when you're super involved is it honestly, it's, I know those back pages has talked about it as being a big family reunion, and that's what it's like. Or like a class reunion with a bunch of
Right.
your buddies you haven't, like, you feel like these are people that you've known for 40 years, 50 years.
Right.
And it's just, it's a crazy awesome experience just hanging out and just forgetting about all the BS in life, especially, you know, the way the last year and a half or so has been. Like you forget about all the quote unquote important things you have to take care of or all your worries in life, and you're just, it's all about the hobby for a few days.
Right.
Hobby and sports and just chatting, hanging out with your friend. And like, to me, like, yeah, you get tired and you're kind of exhausted by the end of the trip, but like in all honesty, like I could, even if I were to try and end the night a little, or like you're too excited to sleep, you get this couple
Right.
hours sleep and you should be good. You're just running on
Well, for me, it's a
excitement.
vacation. I
Yeah.
save up just like any other vacation. I
Mm-hmm.
have an account for the National that I put money in because I that's what it is for me. You know, it's a vacation and it's a hobby vacation where other people might go do something else. That's what I do. So you know, that's how I look at it. And for me, it's Christmas in July. The first time I ever walked in, I thought I was going to cry.
It's just overwhelming because you
It
like,
is.
if you haven't been there, and like I know there's a lot of people who they don't, they either have no shows based on where they're from or they have small shows. It's like 5, 10 tables, which is cool and you can find some cool stuff. But like even in comparison to like the Philly show, which is a decent sized show in my opinion, you walk into the National and you're just like, you you can stand there for an hour just taking it in, just like
Yeah,
the
I'm trying to get
sounds
my
and just
dad to
seeing
go.
the amounting stuff.
I'm trying to
So
get him to come because he just likes the history of the game. So
I was planning on doing that last year at Atlantic City, but obviously that didn't end up taking place. So
right,
hopefully next year we'll see, because that way I could AC hour and a half ride or something, so I could go do a day trip and
right,
then go down and maybe stay down there for a few days afterwards and hang out with all the maniacs from across the country who
right.
come together in one spot.
I think me and my dad are going to go up to the AC because it's no easy way to get there.
Yeah.
It really is not. But you know, him living in Virginia, he said just come here. We'll just drive up. So it's an excuse. He goes with me to the Chantilly show, and which is pretty big in Dulles, um, the CSA or whatever.
Yeah,
But
that's one of the shows I've always considered and have not made the trip, but one of these years.
It's definitely a mini national. It's not on the stage of it. I don't know how big the Philly show is. It sounds pretty big, but
I
it's a
think
big show.
it's pretty similar to Chantilly. They always get compared.
Okay, it's a lot of space
Pretty
in there.
decent.
That's
Yeah.
what I like about it. So, and I need to get to the Philly show. I told Reese and D I need to go up there to hang out with all the Philly guys. So,
Just go for the sole purpose to hang out with Reese for a few minutes alone. It's worth
right.
it.
He said he's not going to the national, which is
Yeah,
kind of a bummer.
he's got a lot going on, but he's an
Right.
awesome dude.
That's
And
hey,
that's
he's a great guy.
I love just hanging out with the fellow collectors, especially in this freaking. We talked about the hobby going nuts and all that, but like even the YouTube space. I mean, years ago it was never the way it is now.
Right.
It's definitely just changed a lot. A lot of corporate channels and such, which they serve their purpose, but I
Yeah.
like meeting the people and the collectors, and hanging out and having a good time. And
Right.
everyone
And,
collects different stuff, but you can appreciate it. I
one
might not
time,
I might not root for the Mets, every night there. I'd rather see them drop down the standings a little bit, but I'm gonna love seeing the cool stuff you pick up, Mets related.
well, I mean, I was going to get on that. One question before I get to that point. About the national, and we'll end the national talk. Everybody's saying it's going to be crazy. I believe it's going to be crazier than usual. But with the investing going on, do you think it's going to be more like the Dallas shows that they're talking about? And even you didn't talk about it as much, but as Ed did about the Philly show, or do you think it's going to be more like the national has been, where it's more of a equal a little bit of everything?
I think you are gonna have because the National usually has a ton of celebrities as is. Uh, Even just the signers and such, they stay at some of the local hotels, so some of them will be out for dinner and
Mm-hmm.
you know, grabbing some drinks, stuff like that. So you will walk by random people. I remember a few years ago, just BSing in one of the lobbies we were hanging out. I was hanging out with Tops 85401. I think we were getting ready to shoot. We were doing pack rips, and I was putting together a video of people opening a bunch of packs, and like Henry Winkler walked by, and it's just like, he's like, "Hey, Mr. Winkler." It was so like random and hilarious.
Right.
But I think the thing is now you're going to have the players there and stuff like that. And I think you're going to have, and I don't know nothing about Instagram and stuff. Like I have one, but I'm not super active. So I'm sure there's big people on there, but you're going to have those people. And I think most of the big channels on YouTube, the really big ones who, hire camera people and stuff, they're not sitting there like you and me maybe using our phone to record a little footage to and I
Right.
mean I do have some other cameras. I have a nice camera that I used to bring to the national, but it was more so to grab some video clips, not to pay someone else to carry around along with a whole bunch of other equipment. I think you're going to see a lot of that for sure. I saw some of it at the Philly show. I'm sure it was worse Saturday. I went Friday, which was a calmer day. I think you're going to see a ton of that at the National for sure. I do think attendance will be crazy. I think there'll be deals to be had for sure. There's going to be so many dealers there. You'll be able to negotiate prices. I don't think everything will be unaffordable. And these guys do spend a lot of time and money, and the wax guys too. I got to think there's going to be certain stuff they're going to have to try and push out because they rent, trucks to bring most of this stuff. So if they can drop down a truck, that saves them a considerable amount of money. So we'll see, but I do think it'll be busy for sure. I think there'll be long lines for certain stuff. The freebie things, PSA and all that stuff's usually ridiculous. Like I remember one year thinking about submitting some stuff just so I wouldn't have to ship it, and then I was like, oh, I'm not waiting for 2 hours. I don't care. I'll pay double the shipping price to ship it and take my chances with it getting there to avoid that line. But
Right.
we'll see.
Last year that not last 2 years ago now, was that picture taking thing where you could go over there and take your picture, and even to that, I was just like, I'm not dealing with all of that.
I thankfully got there and did it with a group of other people where it wasn't a horrible wait.
Right.
So we were able to kind of hang out and have a good time. So the time
Right.
moved pretty quickly. But there are a lot of opportunities for some different stuff like that. It's just a matter of when you do it and
Right.
such.
I think Saturday's going to be horrible.
I think it's probably going to be, yeah, pretty crazy. But I think once the initial getting in process is good, then hopefully you'll be able to get in and out and move around. But it depends what you're looking for. Honestly, when I go to the National, I like to pick up stuff, of course, but personally, I look for stuff that I'm more likely to find at the National. Like the basic stuff I can buy on eBay. Like, you know, if I see some ultra modern stuff and something that fits the collection, I'll look at it. But I seek out like the oddball stuff or the pre-war stuff that it literally does not come to auction more than a couple times a year. So I think I'll be okay getting to those tables, but some of these tables will probably be, you know, pretty hectic at times, and I'm sure there'll be slowdowns and such. So
Right.
here's what you do: you go eat lunch early, and when everyone else goes to eat lunch, that's when you go check out certain tables. You know, you got to coordinate things.
Last year I get a VIP pass. I learned after the first year, especially in Chicago, to get the VIP pass just to go sit down, have a place to sit down is well worth it for me. Uh, so I got in that extra 30 minutes is like feels like forever in the morning. And then I went back about 10, 11, went back to my room, took a nap, and came back at 2, and it was a lot better. So
I think I might actually get the VIP pass this year. I've never done it in the past. In past years, I would always have people like I'd have tickets for a few days. I'd get a few people would send me, they'd get some free tickets and they'd give me some, and I'd be like, well, I don't really need a pass because I'll just buy a couple. And then I think I remember buying some tickets for some people who they had extra tickets or something. This year, though, I feel like I might just do it just so I don't have to worry about standing in line to get tickets. I don't have to spend money on tickets there. I can just
right.
go in and out whenever. The lounge, you know,
It ain't nothing in it, but it's
they shouldn't call it a lounge, but, you know, at least that's an option to go and meet up and sit down for a few minutes. I mean, from past experience, and maybe it'll be different this year because it might be a little more busy. Like, it's not like they have some heavy security. I never had a VIP thing, but I was in that lounge a little bit with other people.
Yeah, that's why you're checking. Yeah, I noticed that. But I mean, and if you go in there enough, you could probably pick up some team sets with all the base cards that get left behind.
Oh yeah, gosh, that's another thing. If you like base and certain products, I mean, you can usually just people will leave stacks of cards. They just. Yeah. I remember there was one year. I guess it was probably a Chicago show because AC in Cleveland I drove, and I was like, I dropped a bunch of stuff off with ComC before, you know, they turned into the dumpster fire they've become. But sorry, ComC, I'm being nice to you by saying that. And
right.
Just saying, I used to love purchasing stuff there, and I would sell some stuff and use every dime I ever sold on ComC I used to buy stuff for the PC. But there was one year I just filled up the 800 count box with decent stuff, and I was just like, here you guys go. And I was like, I don't have any more room to bring this stuff home. It wasn't worth shipping. But other people just take their stuff and either sell it for nothing or
right.
leave it be.
Right.
So that's something else to look for too. That doesn't mean just grab any stack of cards in front of a person, but there's a good chance they're going to get up and just go, let them be.
Right.
But it's fun. I'm definitely looking forward to hanging out with you and other people in the community.
I can't wait.
There's no reason for anyone in the community to like feel lonely or eat lunch on your own or anything, unless you want to. If you're like, I got to get away from these psychos for a few minutes. But I remember like a couple years ago, jumping in like an Uber or something with Dave's Midlife and someone else was with us, and then we see like Bob Lewis walking. I'm like, yo, Bob, what are you doing? He's like, yeah, I can eat.
Well, you needed entertainment.
I think we went to like McDonald's or something. Like I forget, because at that point we're just trying to, you know, conserve as much cash for card expenditures. But it's hilarious.
Was he wearing his Harold Bain, the goat shirt when you?
He was probably wearing a Don Mossy shirt, honestly.
Okay. I know you had one day at the last National, he was wearing Harold Bain, the GOAT shirt. So it made me laugh. But before I let you go, I want to say thank you again for doing this. to me, you're one of the top guys in this community that we have for creating a community atmosphere. Uh, we've talked about your sales. That is more that has become more of a lounge than a sales group almost. I think you touched on that a little bit. You also do the SGC submissions. We didn't even really talk about that tonight.
Hey, if you want to talk about it, we still got some time, but it's up to you.
Okay, we can talk about it real quick. The SGC submissions. I know you still do PSA because we've talked about it offline before, but the SGC. What is your thoughts as first a collector with SGC?
I think at one point in time when I started getting into grading, I started grading with PSA. So I got that PSA tunnel vision like so many have. And I always liked the SGC slabs. I didn't like the old label, the green label, all that
Right.
much, but I'd always heard great things about specifically vintage and pre-war and such. So I'd always look at that stuff. But I just remember at one point in time, one of the Philly shows, I'd drop stuff. I used to always drop stuff off at the Philly show. PSA would be there. And I dropped some stuff off. And then I had a few things I wanted to get reholdered and such. And like I ended up talking to the guys at SGC, and that was my first order I did with them. It was like 3 cards. I think they were all reholders. And one was like a Beckett thing. And I was just, they're like, you want to do a minimum? Like, I was like, I don't care. I don't care if the grade goes down. It was a Richie Ashburn. I was like, I got to get out of this BVG holder, which was scratch to hell. Plus, I'm not a huge Beckett fan, especially for vintage, personally. But once I got the slabs in hand and got used to it, and I've honestly, to this point, I think they do a great job. I love the holders, actually. I think they look great. I like the PSA holders as well. I mean, if I were to nitpick SGC's holders, I would like them to be a little more compact, like the PSA ones. I wish they were a little more narrow and, maybe a little lighter. But overall, I'm used to them. I like the way they look. I actually like the flip, even though I've heard people complain from time to time. I think a lot of people have gotten used to it. But I think they do a great job with grading overall. And they're with the PSA scale, which is the scale I like. Some of these new companies, CSG or new to grading, CSG and HEA have adopted the Beckett grading scale, which I don't like as much. I do like the 9.5. I know some people don't love it, but just from my experience with looking at a lot of cards, and I've looked at a lot of cards for grading over the years, I think the 9.5 is good for the ultra modern stuff because there's a lot of cards that I'm like, this definitely shouldn't be a 10, but it's better than most 9s. It's that little tweener. So if there's a point grade for every other scale, why not between 9 and 10? Obviously, it's too late for PSA to do that because what are they going to potentially regrade?
Yeah.
50 million cards? No. So I like
People
SGC a
talk
lot.
about it.
I actually, when I'm buying vintage and pre-war, I will seek out SGC before PSA. There's
Right.
oftentimes more PSA available, but especially if I can get it cheaper, I'm 100% going SGC.
Right.
I trust them a little more with pre-war and vintage, and same thing with ultra modern. I'll always look at that. I'll search PSA and SGC. So I think they do a good job, and for the most part, I've always had great experiences with them. Like many people, last year, yeah, I had to wait on some orders for 6 months that I wanted back in 30 days, but I didn't freak out about it like most people, probably because I was used to getting hammered by PSA and waiting 8 months. So to me, it was frustrating, but the only real negative there was that I paid up front for those orders. So that money was officially tied up that long, as opposed to PSA. They don't charge it till it comes back, but it is what it is. They went ahead and decided to correct their problem, and to me, they've done a good job with that. So I'm a big fan of SGC, and I like the fact we have options too. I like PSA. I will
Right.
always collect some PSA as well. I don't know how much I have a ton of submissions that have been out with them for a long, long time. 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. I just finally got some stuff back. I'll be doing a reveal on these cards shortly. These are all slightly pricier cards. That was a
Right.
10-day order, and it finally came back after sending it out in February.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but I like
I
having the
saw the one
options.
with the your what's his face quarterback card you have that was forever getting back to you.
Yeah, but CSG, HGA, Beckett, I like having the options. I think
Right.
that's a good thing in terms of grading. So we'll see how things evolve and change with that too.
Right. All right, we're back. As a SGC, uh, you sell it. Are you like? I've never heard you gripe about, oh, they sell too low. Do you hear that right on these channels and viewers? Do you have an issue? I mean, they sell. They just sell for less because it's not as if everybody wants Coke, the Coke's going to sell more than the Pepsi. It's just that's the way it goes. They're both soft drinks. I don't understand why everybody complains about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you no going in. I think the prices on SGC stuff has risen a little bit. It
Mm-hmm.
just depends on the card, and it depends on who's buying it,
Exactly.
what people are looking for.
How patient the
I don't know.
seller
I
is.
think it depends how a player's playing too. If you put up a PSA card of someone who's hitting a buck 55, like it doesn't matter if it's PSA or SGC. No one is more than likely going to be excited to buy it.
Right.
I don't sell a ton of them, but I sold one of my recent ones was a Shohei Ohtani Archives rookie card. I think I just had it like sitting around loose for a while, and I was like, yeah, what the hell? I'll send it in. It looks really good. It got a 9.5. I listed it super high on eBay just to field offers and see what people wanted, and I think I ended up selling it for like $55. I mean, that was like a $3 card probably a
Right.
couple years ago. Obviously, he's been dynamite now, but I think that's a pretty good price for a base Topps Archives card.
Right.
So they certainly sell. And it depends what it is. Like when I was talking at the Philly show to the one dealer, I bought some stuff. I was talking to one dealer, and then his buddy was involved with some other guy, and this guy was buying stuff to flip. He flat out said, "Oh yeah, I just got into this. I like buying stuff." And the guy was trying to this guy was brainwashed, obviously, like many people in the hobby or new to the hobby are, and he's like, but the PSA sells for more. And the guy's like, listen, you can do whatever you want. I'm letting you know from experience, at least at shows, and this is vintage, so obviously modern is a little different. He's like, I sell as many and more SGC holders, vintage wise, and get the same or more money for them than the PSA because that's what the people at the shows want. They want the better looking card. They don't care if the grade's a grade lower. He's like covering up the label, trying to look at the card, stop looking at the label. So I think there's still a lot of that, right?
Right.
PSA is the name brand. I make the comparison. I've told people, I'm like, listen, Nike's really popular. A lot of people in high school and stuff, like, oh, you got to wear Nikes. Guess what? I grew up and said Nikes hurt my freaking feet, and they're overpriced. I go and buy New Balances because they feel good. They fit well. So you just got to do what's best for you, you know.
And because you
It's
wear
not
New Balance, you can do handy things around the house
just,
automatically.
yeah. Just because something is like you just have to look at the card and look at the thing and have different expectations. Right now, a lot of people are grading new stuff with SGC. People are getting SGC in their hands and they're getting used to it. So when people are
Right.
used to stuff, they'll be like, "Oh, I'll look up SGC." That's the way Beckett and PSA have been forever. It's what's going to take something like CSG a long time to build up. Like, yeah, we know that's a company that's been around a long time. I understand they have people who know what they're doing, but people need to get used to those cards, get used to those labels, get used to that name brand. And right now they're so far behind that it's going to take a while for that to have a chance to develop. HGA, I mean, based on their level of experience and grading and all that, like they shouldn't get any recognition in the hobby, but they have because the young people are attracted to the slabs and they got a lot of positive hype early on. But now with the rougher grade, you look at different videos and it seems like people are dropping off and noticing, well, maybe this isn't the best of quality. Like, I don't know that they authenticate cards. I don't feel like spending $20 to try, but I've thought very much about what if I send a 1993, Topps Derek Jeter that's an obvious counterfeit? Will they just grade that and label it as 93? Like, are there card experts that work there? I don't think we know that. So,
Yeah, they're not very transparent on who's working there and who's doing what.
but yeah, we know there's a PSA premium.
Right.
We just know that's the way it is. Whether there should be or not, what's the difference? That's just the way it is.
Right.
But we'll see. If it's a great card, it's a great card. So,
Well, the one thing I do think that's happened is because of the SGC 9.5 and how I think SGC grading is more consistent.
mm-hmm.
And I believe on another level from PSA has made the PSA, I think, harder to get a 10 because they don't have that 9.5. So if you're going to get a 10, it's going to be a 10, it looks like, with PSA right now. And they
Yeah,
don't
I
have
think,
that gold label 10.
yeah, and I think they've tightened up a little bit on certain things because I remember seeing like Max Scherzer. That's the one that sticks out in my mind. Like seeing PSA 10s that were shifted a little bit. I'm like, that is off center. To me, if I were grading, I would absolutely give it a 9. Maybe if it was perfect and everything, I could see why I would get like a 9.5. But PSA doesn't have a 9.5. But yet they would grade it a 10 back in the day. I don't think that's happening necessarily now, but
Right.
it's
Yeah, I don't think it's any more busting a 9.5 into the PSA and getting a 10. I think
no,
it's going to be
probably
tough
not.
to
And I
do.
don't
You
think
get
it's.
a 9.
I always found that to be barely worth it anyway, based on prices and waiting. And that's another thing. And I get it. PSA needs to catch up, and at some point they will. But like as a collector, because I'll hear people say, "Oh, I mean, it's for my collection. I don't care when it comes back." And it's like, no, I care more when it comes back if it's for my collection. Like I hate all the cards I have out at PSA that have been out for get closer to a year than not. Like it's frustrating. It gets aggravating. Like I don't feel like waiting. An example is I picked up a Del Ennis card. It's the old Phillies card from the late 40s. And I remember I picked it up and I think I was going to send it to SGC. And I was like, let me send it to PSA before the prices rise. And like now that card's been out for 6 months or whatever. Meanwhile, I talked Ed into buying one at a Neshaminy show and at one of our local mall shows, which is pretty good. He bought it, sent it in one of my SGC orders and got it back 2 weeks later. And now he's had it in his collection for months. And I'm like, when is mine ever coming back?
Right.
So that is something that, as sending stuff not to sell, it's great to get it back and be like, damn, I got this card back in my collection. It's in hand the way I want it. So that's invaluable. And even if you want to sell stuff, you might take less, but think of all the people who are getting all their basketball cards back now that the player seasons are over. Or if you had Lou Bob, who's, now hurt, or some of these other players, like, might take less, but at least you take it and move it before
Right.
waiting an eternity for it to come back.
Yeah, I'm not an investor, but I can understand you can get it back in less than 30 days. Even if you sell it at 10% decrease, you're still selling it. The other ones are sitting at PSA. So I don't get it. But, I'm not much into investing, but, I sell now more than I ever have before. So I have to keep one eye on that field.
Yeah, I mean,
I have to watch Jeff Wilson.
You always want to know. You always want to, have an idea of what you have. I mean, it's weird things to think about, but I make sure I tell some family members, like, hey, I'll make just small mentions, like, don't ever sell this stuff to. If the time comes, don't sell it to these places.
Right.
Here's a place where you can sell unopened wax, or here's some people you can reach out to, or hey,
Right.
you can look these things up. Like,
Yeah, you've helped me in the past, so I'm waiting on those Ben Baller cards from PSA. Be Ben Baller's grandkids. I'll be buying them from later by the time we get on. But and we're talking about this because he does submit to SGC. You are a SGC submitter. You got the deal from him. And
Yeah, and to make it clear, the main reason I keep doing it is to make it available to some people in the community. I don't go out there and promote it too much. Like
right, yeah,
I
and
have, compared to some of the other people, I send in very little for group sub stuff. But thankfully, I've built a pretty decent relationship with them that I'm still able to do that. So I'm happy to continue to do it and
mm,
thank people for patience for when I actually get the stuff sent out and stuff like that.
right. So, Mike, I'm going to let you go. I think we're on a better part of an hour, if a little less.
Is
But
this the longest episode of Let's Talk ever?
oh yeah, usually it's 20 minutes, even if I'm on a rant day against Tops for some reason. Which I, you know what? They better have somebody from customer service at their desk at the National, because I hope somebody has a camera when I go up for that thing. So uh, I have paperwork over here. I'm still waiting on Star Wars 3D cards from a year ago that they said was going to be sent to me in 10 days.
Was that in
So,
order?
huh?
Was that in order?
Yeah, when they had it
Oh, the
was
3D,
3D
like the
cards.
baseball ones that I had
Yeah,
no chance to purchase last year because they went like that. In past
right.
years, you could order them for like a week.
Yeah. So and I see like I can go on blowout cards and buy them, but I didn't get mine.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I've always had pretty good success and with tops, no real issues. I did have the problem with Sapphire last year coming crushed,
Right.
but
They
most
did
of the
send
time
me.
it most of the time
It's
it hasn't been a bad experience. I'm still waiting on redemptions like everyone, but a lot of people complain about like tops and like it is for. But I'm like at the same time like Yadi Molina, what were you doing all winter long that you couldn't sign those 3 redemptions I'm still waiting on? Like
right.
that's on the player, so that stuff's frustrating too.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't really bother me as much as like their customer service just point blank stinks.
I
And
haven't tried in a while. I actually at a certain point gave up because it was so. I don't know how it's been lately, but at one point it was like impossible to get through. You'd have to wait
well,
like hours.
right, reaching out and helping people in your community. I think everybody that deals with you has nothing but great things to say, and I just wanted to tell you
Oh,
that.
not everybody. I get some trolls from time to time. Not
Well,
as many nowadays though.
when
They're,
you
most of them are busy with some of the
with
bigger channels now.
well, those guys, those people need to get lives and go mess with other people. I do feel for Triple Crown because he's dealing with the PSA stuff, so I'm sure he's getting hammered with that stuff. But I really appreciate you, Mike, and thank you again for coming on. And I because of you and your showing Philly stuff, is I don't feel bad just showing a lot of Mets and Gary Carter. I
At
it
a
is what
certain
it
point,
is.
you got to share what you love collecting and such. And it's like, yeah, if you want to, if your sole goal is to get as many eyeballs on you and as many people, just show Mike Trout cards and, people will be happy. And I like collecting stuff like that. But you know what
Right.
else I like to collect? I like some shiny, Bryce Harper cards and stuff. So I just share off what I like and enjoy it. And I think that's the best way to experience it. So I want to encourage other people to know there's a lot you can collect. You don't have to collect just what, the top 5 cards for, this Tuesday afternoon and, whatever top 5 cards will be for Thursday afternoon. The hobby is way more about that. So there's a
Right.
lot to enjoy and collect. And there's a lot of people to enjoy and collect, and you'll have a great experience. So check out a lot of collectors in the community, not just the
Is there
investors.
anybody that you're thinking that's not being watched that you think should be watched? Because I have one, or even
Big Scott.
well, thank you. I was going to say other than me, but I didn't want to say, hey, I'm not getting enough views. But
I mean, off the top of my head, there's so many people, but
right,
I mean,
because I think Victor with the rookie card,
I mean,
I
Victor
think
does a great job too. I know he's another one of those guys that I've planned on doing a podcast with for a long time, and just
right.
I'm so bad at getting those scheduled. I talk to people for like
I want
3
him
months,
on
6
mine
months, a
too.
year. So,
Right.
but yeah, he
I
does a great job, and he's like, he puts a lot of thought into things too, which is
exactly.
awesome, and has a lot of good insight too. So I absolutely agree with him and
Right.
so many others out there.
And was it Mike, this baseball card life? He shows a card and he's got more information about a card than any. I don't know where he gets all the information from, but he does a great job. So
Yeah, I know him and Ray were doing the shows there for a
yeah,
while. I remember
I love those shows.
jumping on one of those. So
Yeah,
we had a good time.
yeah, I love it when them
And
two
I've
do
I've
that.
had the opportunity to meet him at the National a few times. So
Oh, okay,
it's
yeah,
pretty awesome.
yeah. Um, so again, thanks again for coming on, and until next time, see ya.